This is the richest black woman in London. London is packed with billionaires, royal estates, and old families whose names sit on buildings, but today, I'm taking you somewhere the tabloids barely dare to look. Imagine a woman so wealthy her London assets rival nations so private you could pass her on the street and never know yet. Her family fortune reshaped an entire continent's phone network and funded education for hundreds of thousands of children. Who is she, and how did she rise above every other black woman in the city? Stay with me, because the #1 spot will shock you. And if you love stories of power with purpose, hit subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence right now. Tsitsi Masiyiwa. Tsitsi Masiyiwa is the kind of figure London rarely notices at first glance, and that is exactly how she prefers it. In a city where wealth often arrives with noise, she represents a different tradition. Influence rooted in purpose, family strategy, and long-range thinking. While headlines frequently track her husband, Strive Masiyiwa's rise as a telecommunications billionaire, Tsitsi's own role is neither decorative nor secondary. She is a co-architect of one of the most consequential African business stories of the last 3 decades, and the moral center of a philanthropic machine that operates from London to the continent. Her journey begins far from British high society. Before the London townhouses and the global boardrooms, there was the climate of uncertainty in Zimbabwe during the 1990s, when private enterprise was not welcomed, especially when it threatened state monopolies. Tsitsi and Strive were not handed a clear road to success. They faced obstruction, political pressure, and a prolonged legal struggle simply to gain the right to build a mobile network. The case dragged on for years, draining resources and testing resolve. Yet Tsitsi remained a steady strategist at the heart of that fight, supporting decisions that risked comfort in exchange for the future. The victory didn't just create a company. It cracked open a market. Econet Wireless eventually grew into a major telecommunications force across Africa, later branching into broader technology infrastructure through Cassava Technologies, including fiber networks, data centers, and digital services. What makes Tsitsi compelling is not only the scale of wealth associated with this empire, but the way she has defined what that wealth should do. She leads the Higher Life Foundation, a large-scale charitable initiative focused on education, health, and community resilience. The foundation has supported schooling for hundreds of thousands of young people over the years, prioritizing those who would otherwise be left behind: orphans, girls at risk of dropping out, and students in underserved rural areas. Her commitment isn't performative, it's systematic. Scholarships, mentorship programs, healthcare projects, and crisis response efforts are built into the foundation as long-term structures, not one-off gestures. Would you choose a life of quiet service over constant public applause? From her London base, Tsitsi operates with a global view. She moves comfortably among international leaders, business innovators, and major philanthropists, serving on influential boards and collaborating on initiatives that steer funding toward measurable impact. Yet she guards her private life fiercely. That privacy isn't secrecy for its own sake, it signals discipline. She has never needed to prove her status through spectacle because her work produces the proof daily. In many ways, Tsitsi Masiyiwa embodies a modern version of aristocracy, one built not on inherited titles, but on earned authority. Her family's fortune is regularly estimated in the multi-billion-dollar range, but her defining legacy is deeper than any number. She helped shape a communications revolution that connected millions, then redirected the benefits of that transformation into the lives of those with the least access to opportunity. London may be where she lives, but her reach is unmistakably global. And if the richest black woman in London is measured not just by what she owns, but by what she enables, Tsitsi Masiyiwa stands at the summit, quiet, durable, and impossible to ignore once you truly see her. Isabel dos Santos. Isabel dos Santos is one of those names that can make a room go quiet because her story is not a simple rise. It's a rise, a reign, and a reckoning. For a time, she was widely described as Africa's richest woman, celebrated as a symbol of modern global black wealth. She moved in elite circles, invested like a titan, and planted flags in Europe's most expensive cities, including London. But her legacy today sits at the crossroads of ambition, politics, and courtroom drama, and that tension is exactly what makes her chapter so gripping. Born in Angola, Isabel is the daughter of José Eduardo dos Santos, who ruled the country for 38 years. That family connection shaped both her opportunity and the controversy that followed. During the years of her father's presidency, she built a vast portfolio across telecom, banking, energy, retail, and media. Her defenders say she was a sharp entrepreneur who understood how to scale companies across borders. Her critics argue she benefited from state favoritism, privileged access, and deals that ordinary citizens could never touch. What is not disputed is the scale she reached at her peak. Major wealth trackers estimated her fortune in the billions of dollars. The turning point came in 2020 with the Luanda leaks, a major international investigation that mapped hundreds of companies linked to her and her late husband, Sindika Dokolo. Investigators alleged that large sums flowed from Angolan state-linked entities into businesses she controlled. Isabel has consistently denied wrongdoing, calling the accusations politically motivated. Still, the fallout was immediate, and multiple jurisdictions began freezing or challenging her holdings. London became one of the central arenas. In December 2023, the High Court granted a worldwide freezing order of up to £580 million tied to a case brought by Unitel, Angola's largest telecom operator, concerning loans and transactions linked to a company she led. In late 2024, a UK appeals court rejected her attempt to overturn that order, meaning the freeze remains in force while litigation continues. This isn't a symbolic slap, it's a legal net designed to prevent assets being moved while claims are adjudicated. The case has also carried heavy cost penalties against her in the UK process. Her London property footprint has been widely reported, but is not fully transparent to the public because of how ultra-prime real estate is often held. What can be stated responsibly is that she has been associated with high-value homes in Kensington, one of the capital's most protected and expensive districts, showing how seriously she once treated London as a base of power. Yet even that fortress-like presence now feels like a symbol of the wider shift, a life built on global reach, suddenly constrained by global law. Isabel dos Santos remains a fascinating figure because her story refuses to fit into a single moral box. She is either a brilliant businesswoman caught in the turbulence of regime change or a beneficiary of a system that blurred public wealth and private gain, or some complex combination of both. The courts will decide the legal record. History will debate the rest. But for anyone watching the evolution of black wealth in London, her arc is a reminder that money can open every door in the world and still not protect you when the world decides to audit the keys. Folorunsho Alakija. Folorunsho Alakija's London story begins long before she ever became a headline. To understand why her name carries weight in Knightsbridge circles, you have to start with something far less glamorous: discipline, timing, and a stubborn willingness to survive rooms that were never designed for her. Born in Nigeria in 1951, she was sent to the UK as a child for her schooling, absorbing British life early while still carrying the instincts of a Lagos household that expected grit before comfort. She didn't grow up surrounded by oil rigs or board positions. Her first professional steps were ordinary secretarial and administrative work in Nigeria during the 1970s, yet they quietly trained her for the high-pressure spaces she would later dominate. Her initial breakthrough came through fashion, not petroleum. After training in London in dressmaking and design, she returned home and founded Supreme Stitches, a luxury label that dressed Nigeria's elite at a time when style was also a signal of political access. That proximity to power mattered. In the early 1990s, she secured an oil exploration license for OML 127, a deep offshore block that many viewed as too risky and too expensive to drill. Alakija partnered with Texaco, now part of Chevron, and the gamble paid off. OML 127 turned out to be part of the Agbami deep water field, one of Nigeria's largest discoveries. When the Nigerian government later tried to reduce her stake, she fought back through years of litigation. In 2012, Nigeria's Supreme Court ruled in Famfa Oil's favor, restoring her company's interest and cementing her status as a serious energy player. From there, her wealth was no longer theoretical. It was anchored in reserves, royalties, and equity. Current public estimates of her net worth cluster around $1 billion to $2 billion as of 2025, depending on oil valuations and private asset holdings. She has also expanded into printing real estate and philanthropy through the Rose of Sharon Group, creating a business footprint that stretches well beyond crude. London becomes important again at the level of lifestyle and asset diversification. Alakija is widely reported to hold high-value property in the UK, particularly in One Hyde Park in Knightsbridge, an address known for apartments routinely priced from several £1,000,000 upward. Some investigative reporting has claimed she controls multiple units through offshore registered companies linked to her business network. The exact count is not publicly verified in a simple open record, so any specific number should be treated as an allegation rather than a proven fact. What is clear is that her British real estate exposure sits firmly in the ultra-prime category, consistent with the scale of her oil-backed holdings. If success demanded a decade-long legal war, would you still stay in the fight? Yet Alakija is not only a symbol of luxury. She has used her resources to build broad social programs, especially through the Rose of Sharon Foundation, supporting widows, orphaned children, small business grants, and educational scholarships. Her giving is framed publicly through her Christian faith, which is central to her identity. She also founded a ministry that reinforces the idea that her life is guided by conviction as much as by capital. Taken together, Folorunso Alakija represents a rare combination in London's black high-wealth landscape, a woman who turned craftsmanship into access into ownership, and ownership into global standing. Her route wasn't viral, political, or inherited inside Britain. It was built in stages, first with fabric, then with courtrooms, then with oil, and London is one of the places where the results of that long climb are most visibly parked. Valerie Moran. Valerie Moran's rise reads like a modern immigrant success story written in code contracts and stubborn optimism. Born and raised in Zimbabwe in a family that valued education and enterprise, she trained as a systems analyst at a time when that field was still overwhelmingly male. When Zimbabwe's economy tightened and opportunities narrowed, she relocated to the United Kingdom in the early 2000s, arriving without the safety net that many entrepreneurs quietly rely on. London wasn't offering her a crown, it was offering a crowded arena. She stepped in anyway, carrying technical skill, a clear eye for unmet needs, and the kind of patience that builds wealth slowly before it explodes. Her defining chapter began in 2008 when she and her husband, Noel Moran, co-founded Prepaid Financial Services (PFS). The idea was deceptively simple. Millions of people and institutions needed secure ways to move money digitally without traditional bank accounts. PFS built the rails for prepaid cards and e-money programs that could be used by councils, government agencies, mobile operators, and major corporations across Europe. While many startups chased growth at any cost, PFS focused on regulated compliance and sustainable profitability, becoming one of Europe's largest e-money issuers operating in more than 20 countries. Valerie wasn't a background figure. She ran implementation, client relations, and operations, making sure the technology actually worked in the messy, real world of public services and large organizations. In November 2019, the breakthrough turned historic. PFS agreed to be acquired by Australian payments group EML Payments, in a deal initially valued around $327 million. Because the company was privately held and heavily founder-owned, the payout landed directly in Valerie and Noel's hands. Public reporting at the time indicated the couple controlled just over 80% of PFS, meaning the exit instantly lifted them into Britain's high-wealth tier. Even after renegotiations and earn-out structures during the pandemic period, the sale remained a life-changing nine-figure event. This deal did more than enrich her, it placed her in the record books. In 2019, Valerie became the first and only Black woman to enter the top 1,000 of the Sunday Times Rich List as a self-made entrepreneur. That year, the list estimated the Moran's wealth at roughly $122 million. By the 2020 edition, their combined fortune was widely reported closer to $278 million, reflecting the scale of the acquisition and continuing assets. Yet Valerie's identity isn't confined to numbers. She's also known for high-impact giving. One of her most cited initiatives involved supporting the equivalent of about 200,000 school meals for children in Mali, through partnerships with major global organizations. She has spoken repeatedly about widening access for women in technology and creating pathways for underrepresented founders, using her own trajectory as proof that technical talent and business leadership can coexist in one person. Today, Valerie Moran stands as a symbol of what Black wealth in London can look like when it's forged through innovation rather than inheritance, not flash, not noise, but an infrastructure-level fortune built by solving real financial problems at scale. Her story is a reminder that sometimes the most powerful people in the city are the ones who quietly design the systems everyone else depends on. Mo Abudu. Mo Abudu's presence in London is not the loud kind you notice on a red carpet. It's the structural kind you feel when a whole cultural lane suddenly has a highway. Born in Hammersmith, West London in 1964 to Nigerian parents, she grew up with a dual-identity British schooling and Yoruba roots, then carried that hybrid perspective back to Nigeria, where her career first took shape. She didn't enter entertainment through fame or family. She entered it through competence. A long, high-level run in recruitment and human resources, including senior roles at ExxonMobil, gave her operational discipline and a network inside corporate Africa. That corporate foundation is important because it explains what came next. Mo didn't fall into media. She engineered a media company the way a strategist builds an institution. Her big leap was the creation of Ebony Life TV in 2013, positioned as a premium African lifestyle and storytelling network. It scaled fast across Africa and the diaspora in the UK and Caribbean, and quickly expanded into film via Ebony Life Films and Ebony Life Studios. Under her leadership, Ebony Life produced and co-produced box office hits, such as The Wedding Party 2016, often cited as one of Nollywood's highest-grossing titles, and later projects that blended commercial polish with African-centered narratives. Mo's playbook was clear: make African stories global by meeting global production standards without diluting cultural voice. That approach unlocked historic partnerships. In 2020, Ebony Life signed a multi-title agreement with Netflix, widely recognized as the first deal of its kind for an African media company, followed by ongoing collaborations with Sony Pictures Television and AMC Networks. These weren't one-off licensing wins. They were strategic bridges between Nollywood and Hollywood, turning Ebony Life into a pipeline rather than a single studio. She has since spoken about building an Afro film fund and developing new distribution platforms to keep African intellectual property in African hands while still reaching worldwide audiences. If you could change how the world sees your culture, would you bet your whole career on it? Now the London chapter is becoming physical. Ebony Life has acquired a property on Wandsworth Road to launch Ebony Life Place London, a first-of-its-kind African creative and cultural hub scheduled to open in late 2025. The plan is ambitious: a dedicated African cinema space, performance and event venues, fashion and art showcases, food experiences, and industry networking under one roof, essentially a Lego-style Ebony Life Place, transplanted into the UK's creative bloodstream. This move matters because it turns London from a market into a base, a permanent address for African talent to collaborate premiere work and monetize culture on European soil. On net worth, credible reporting is cautious. Mo Abudu does not publish audited personal wealth figures, and estimates online vary widely, So the responsible takeaway is that she is a multimillionaire media executive whose wealth is tied to private company value long-term studio contracts and now London real estate. What is beyond doubt is her impact. She has built one of the most influential Black-owned media groups on the planet and is actively recentering African narratives in the global imagination, using London not as a stage, but as a control room. Gina Miller. Gina Miller's story sits at a rare intersection: high finance, constitutional law, and personal grit. In London, she is known not only as a woman who shook the British government twice, but as a business leader who spent years inside the machinery of the city before she ever stepped into a courtroom. If you want to understand her wealth and her influence, you have to start with where she came from and how early she learned to stand on her own. She was born in 1965 in British Guyana. Now, Guyana, the daughter of Dudhnauth Singh, the country's Attorney General. Her childhood carried privilege on paper, but instability in practice. When Guyana imposed strict currency controls, money from home stopped arriving. Still a teenager in England, Gina had to support herself. She has spoken about working low-paid jobs, facing bullying, and discovering what it meant to live without a safety net. That period shaped her adult identity, a woman who does not flinch when the stakes turn hostile. Instead of collapsing under that pressure, she built skills that belonged in boardrooms. She studied law and marketing, then entered the investment world. Over time, she moved from employee to founder, and after the 2008 financial crisis, she and her husband Alan Miller launched SCM Direct, later SCM Private, an investment management firm designed around low costs and full transparency. Their strategy leaned heavily on ETFs and long-term portfolio construction, a deliberate challenge to an industry they believed was too comfortable hiding fees from ordinary investors. By the mid-2010s, the firm was reported to manage over $100 million for private clients, and it remained founder-owned, meaning the Millers' own money sat in the same products as their customers. But the moment that turned Gina Miller into a household name arrived in 2016. After the Brexit referendum, the UK government planned to trigger Article 50 without a vote in Parliament. Miller financed and fronted a legal challenge, arguing that elected lawmakers, not ministers acting alone, had to approve a change that removed citizens' rights. She won in the High Court, and then again in the Supreme Court. 3 years later, she was back in the same arena, successfully challenging the government's attempt to suspend Parliament in 2019. These were not symbolic victories. They rewrote the limits of executive power in modern Britain. Success carried a price. She became a target for public fury, especially from hardline Brexit supporters, and has endured years of abuse and credible death threats. What makes her remarkable is not that she was attacked. History is full of people who are, but that she kept walking forward anyway. She also translated that visibility into broader campaigning through her True and Fair initiative. She lobbied for tighter investor protections and clearer standards across the pensions and fund management world. Because her private finances aren't disclosed, any precise net worth figure is an estimate. Most reputable profiles place her personal wealth in the multi-million-pound range, commonly around $10 million, tied largely to her ownership stake in SCM Private and related ventures. Yet the real measure of her standing in London isn't the headline number. It's the combination of financial independence and civic resolve, a city professional who became a constitutional force, then stayed committed even when the spotlight turned dangerous. For many watching from outside the UK, she is proof that money can buy comfort, but character is what buys impact. Patricia Bright. Patricia Bright is a London success story built in plain sight, one that started far from luxury and ended in boardroom-level wealth. She's a British-Nigerian creator, entrepreneur, and investor who became famous online, but her real achievement is what she did with that fame afterward. For viewers who grew up in a world where careers followed a straight line, Patricia's path is a reminder that the new economy rewards people who learn to pivot fast and think like owners. She was raised in South London in a working-class household, the kind of environment where you learn early that money is a tool you have to earn, not a comfort you inherit. As a teenager, she hustled in small, practical ways, doing hair for classmates to make pocket money because she saw the gap between what people needed and what they could afford. That instinct to spot opportunity would become her signature later on. Patricia did what many ambitious young Londoners do. She went to university, built credentials, and got a job in finance. She worked as a financial analyst and consultant, gaining the professional polish and numerical discipline that would later separate her from most influencers. But she also lived a second life. Late at night, she recorded YouTube videos in simple spaces teaching beauty style and confidence with a tone that felt like your smartest friend telling you the truth. Her channel took off because it wasn't just glamorous, it was relatable, direct, and precise. Once the income from content exceeded her corporate salary, she made the high-risk move. She resigned from the traditional ladder and committed full-time to her own brand. That choice is where her story shifts from internet fame to real wealth. She didn't spend early success only on status symbols. Instead, she poured earnings into assets, especially London property. She has documented buying, renovating, and upgrading homes, treating real estate as a wealth engine rather than a lifestyle accessory. This is key. Online popularity can fade, but property equity compounds. She also broadened her business footprint. Beyond ads and sponsorships, Patricia built product collaborations and launched ventures that fit her audience's needs. One of her most notable shifts was moving from beauty guru to financial educator, creating content and platforms aimed at helping women understand investing, budgeting, credit, and long-term planning. That repositioning expanded her credibility from entertainment into empowerment, and that credibility has lasting monetary value. If you suddenly earned more than your day job, would you have the courage to walk away? Because her companies are private, exact net worth. Can't be audited publicly. Estimates online often place her wealth in the multi-million-pound range, commonly cited around 5 million plus to us. But responsible reporting must say this is approximate. What is measurable is her scale. Millions of followers across platforms, a decade plus. Media career brand partnerships with global firms, and a documented portfolio of property investments in one of the most expensive housing markets on earth. Patricia Bright represents a modern London archetype, not old aristocracy, not lottery luck, but self-manufactured prosperity, anchored by skill and reinvestment. She turned late-night bathroom videos into a durable financial base, proving that the smartest move after making money is learning how to keep it growing. So there you have it. London's black architects of modern wealth. Patricia Bright, turning content into real assets. Gina Miller, blending city finance with constitutional courage. Mo Abudu, exporting African stories to global screens. Valerie Moran, cashing out a fintech empire. Folorunso Alakija, anchoring billions in oil and ultra-prime property. And Isabel dos Santos, showing how fast fortunes can meet scrutiny. Above them, Tsitsi Masiyiwa represents quiet, compounding dynasty power with philanthropy at its core. But legends of black excellence. Here's the debate: is richest about the biggest number, the cleanest story, or the deepest impact?